Welcome back to Kickin' Here with Mitch. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe, enjoy, comment, and if you have something you want us to talk about, drop a comment in there and let us know what's on your mind, and we'll talk about it right here. Without further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to Kickin' It with Mitch.
Hey, I have a question. Twilight Zone. Some of you are too young to remember it. Some of you might know just about what I'm talking about. Twilight Zone. Would you like to see them come back with possibly a reboot, or possibly remake? I call it the remoot, which is a little bit of both. But yes, would you like to see a remake or possible reboot of Twilight Zone, where every week we get something different, but we have a host, kind of like Albert Hitchcock? Or should they leave it be? Should they not touch it? I think it would be excellent to have something along that Twilight Zone for the new millennials that enjoy horror, enjoy a good story, enjoy something that's just suspenseful. Keep it in a prime time setting so you can go over the top when you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. Why not bring Twilight Zone back? They're doing everything else. I think they would do good by doing this, but it's just a question of who would be the host. And then I think it would be kind of easy to kind of find different people to write different stories. It's a way to integrate different directors, different actors, actresses, or keep the same premise and actors, kind of almost like how they did with American Horror Story, which came about that close to being just like the Twilight Zone. So maybe we'll see something like that in time, but wanted to ask you, how would you feel about Twilight Zone coming back? I give it 2 thumbs up. Nextly, we're going to talk about 2 shows that have longevity that's quite a bit. One's maybe almost double of the amount of the other, but both have high quality. We're going to break it down. Fans of Chicago PD, yeah, that show where there's a team that's got to figure out a certain crime that happened and figure it out by the end of the episode, or possibly a continuation, and then it figures out the next episode. NCIS, not their spin-offs, just the original NCIS. It has lasted us quite some time. They also have a team that has to figure out certain things that happen, but the difference in between both of them is one's based out of Chicago and one's based in naval. So naval crimes on naval, grounds or what have you, compared to as something happening strictly in Chicago. So that's where your 2 differences come, but the teams are similar. So then we ask, who solves more? Well, I'd have to give that one to NCIS. They seem to figure out just about everything that's going on. They have a great forensic team. They, in the days with the big old compound drinks that the forensic scientist, she would figure out, and then you've got the scientist in the lab that figures out the body and figures out everything, and then gives the information to Jeffrey Gibbs, and he figures it out, takes his team out there, and they really figure out things from that point. So from a standpoint of solving more crimes, I say the NCIS crew did better. No knock to Hank Voight. They dig in, they watch surveillance, videotapes, question, go back to the scene, relook at the evidence, and if they cannot get it figured out, then they take them down in that little area down there in the bottom of the cellar behind that fence, and they force it out of you. So they do a little more brute force. But sometimes that brute force doesn't equivalent to what you want as far as solving the crime. Sometimes some crimes, they don't get solved. And, Hank's not perfect, so to speak. But they all have skeletons in their closet as the series continues. So from solving a crime, I have to say, I'll give this one to NCIS. Whose leader is better? Hank Boyd, Jethro Gibbs. Well, they're both pretty smart, old school and savvy, been through their fair share of wars, been through their fair share of trials and tribulations. Personal life-wise, neither two of them, I think, locks the door very often. One's got a huge safe in his basement with a lot of demons in it. Another one takes time and spends in his basement building all types of wooden crafts, from a big huge boat to whatever you could think of. One uses a glass jar to drink out of, where one keeps booze in his desk. So from leadership standpoint, I have to give this, well, let's go back one more second. They both know how to get the best out of their team. They both at sometimes have to take on, so to speak, a father figure role to get the best out of their team as well. They both know how to irritate whatever bosses that are above their heads and go over the top to complete whatever missions that are needed to be taken care of. Both are on edge, both live off their instincts, and I can't really give an advantage to either two. So in this instance, I would have to say, as far as leadership, I give it a tie. So far we got a tie, and then we got NCIS up 1 point. Which teams are stronger? Well, this one is something that got really interesting. On one hand, they both had multiple different members of the teams. A lot of the members have left, a lot have stayed, a lot have retired, some have died, some have not, some have disappeared. So it varies. But I would have to say that this one goes to Chicago PD. No matter what team they've had or what characters may have left, what characters may have joined, they never skip a beat. They get those teammates integrated, and even if they don't add new team members, they still get the job done, whether that means it's just more hours worked or not. No knock to the NCIS teams, of course, over the years from that particular series, because they get the job done too as well. And for a long time, they kept the same base crew, but then at some point, those guys retired or left, or had circumstances where they could no longer stay a part of the team. But I think, as far as team-wise, I think that the Chicago PD team is a little stronger, just by that much. And that's not much. So now we got 1-1. So we're 1-1 and we got a tie. Now here's the last part of it. Which show intrigues you, the fan, the most? For me, drum roll please, I'm gonna have to say Chicago PD intrigues me the most, and I'll tell you why. I myself started watching NCIS when they introduced Ziva David. She was a Mossad agent tasked with spying on the actual NCIS team, and then ended up joining the NCIS team. Once her character left, I lost passion for the show, but I continued to watch. They tried to bring her back, and it just was never really the same. They had other characters in the beginning, and I felt like in the beginning NCIS was a really good show, but those characters passed away, got old, died, and I'm talking within the show, not the actors. Then they took away Jethro Gibbs and put a new person in there. And yes, the show has continued and it continues. Even has spawned several spinoffs. But Chicago PD has not changed since day one. It's still doing it in season 12 and continues to do as such. Now, yes, they have lost members of the team. I've started watching Chicago PD from day one and have not stopped watching Chicago PD. And it continues to intrigue me every single year and every week of its season of each year. I have to give this one to Chicago PD. And in my opinion, I feel that Chicago PD giving me more than NCIS, but I did enjoy NCIS very, very much. And there you have it with this year's first Versus episode, and also how we feel about a Twilight Zone reboot, remake, or remove. Let me know how you feel. Are you a fan of NCIS? Are you a fan of Chicago PD? Are you a fan of both? What do you think? How do you feel? Drop a comment, extend a like, share with a friend, talk about it during your lunch break, or even talk about it tonight while you're watching television with your significant other. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, comment, enjoy. We really appreciate you here. Thanks for the support. Much love. Peace.
Thanks for kicking it with Mitch.
Just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.